sphere.
Thruster activation, say again. You must be ready for this thruster activation, right? Yes, we are ready, Moscow. 7 minutes for 1 Mach, and please monitor how the commands go through. Will do, Moscow.
At this hour, the International Space Station and the Soyuz vehicle flying 12 kilometers apart, passing 262 statute miles just to the east of Argentina, about to begin a southwest to northeasterly track across the South Atlantic in an orbit inclined 51.6 degrees to either side of the equator. Now just over 2 minutes from the deorbit burn.
Flight take the last
2 minutes.
But what about next flight? The training. Okay.
In the descent module, once again, Max Sarayev in the center seat as Soyuz commander, flanked on his left by Reed Wiseman as board engineer number 1 for tonight's entry and landing. Alexander Gerst from the European Space Agency on the right of Sarayev. A unique moment for the European Space Agency. Another ESA astronaut, Samantha Cristoforetti, about to be launched 2 weeks from now, along with Terry Virts and Anton Shkaplerov to the International Space Station. That crew to fly down to the Baikonur Cosmodrome on Tuesday for the final 2 weeks of their training.
Don't be sad.
1 minute away from the deorbit burn.
Another flight after that. Okay, the command on the mode stabilization went through, and as yes, we are waiting for the opening of the SKD cover. The cover is open. Do you confirm? Do you confirm, Maxim, there is GSO or in attitude signal? Yes. And we are standing by for Maxim. It's a reminder. During the descent, please do the reports.
Now just 15 seconds away, standing by for the initiation of the deorbit burn.
Come with us. Okay, copy, Moscow. The thruster activated.
And the deorbit burn is now underway.
047 is acceleration.
Over the South Atlantic, a 4-minute, 41-second retrograde firing of the Soyuz engine.
7 meters, 8 meters. This thruster operated for 25 seconds. 046 is acceleration. It's page 107. Okay, this thruster worked for 38 seconds. Propellant 32 seconds. 045 is the acceleration. Okay, so the burn and the time of operation. 58 seconds, 26.7, 1 minute, 28.
Max Sarayev reporting back to the Russian flight control team on the duration of the burn, the rate of deceleration, and propellant consumption.
Minute, 18, 20 seconds, 36 meters. Minute 30 seconds, 40 meters. Minute 35 seconds, 44 meters. Acceleration is 0.46 and is stable. Minute 45, 48 meters. Minute 55, 52 meters. And the pressure in the burners is stable. 2 minutes, 54 meters. Great. Everything is according to the stable propellant. Consumption 128. Minute 10, 59 meters, 60 meters. 2 minutes 18 to 20, 64 meters. 2:25, 66 meters. 2:30, 68 meters. Good. The acceleration is stable, 0.46. 2:40, 73 meters.
About 2 minutes to go in the deorbit burn. Everything looking great so far.
76 meters. 2 minutes, 53, 79 meters. The first stage, the pressure is stable, 0.47 is acceleration, 84.5 meters. 3 minutes, 10 seconds, 87 meters. 3 minutes, 20 seconds, 91 meter, 92. 3 minutes, 30 seconds, 96 meters. Copy, Maxim. Thank you. And what about the continuous reporting? 3 minutes, 40 seconds, 101 meter. Acceleration 0.47, stable. 3:48, 49, 106 meters. And the pressure is stable. 0.47 is the acceleration. 3 minutes, 59. 4 minutes. 256 kilograms propellant. 100.
About 40 seconds left in the deorbit burn.
Minutes, 10 seconds. 115 meters. 4 minutes, 20 seconds, 120 meters. 4 minutes, 27, 28 seconds, 125 meters. Okay, the command is sent, GK. So the burn is complete, 128 meters, 128.1. The thruster, the activated, the cut-off command went through.
And the deorbit burn is complete and perfect. Expedition 41 on its way home after 165 days in space. A Russian Air Force Colonel, Max Sarayev, an American Navy commander and test pilot, Reed Wiseman, and a German volcanologist, Alexander Gerst, heading home for a frozen scrub of land on the steppe of Kazakhstan. Touchdown expected less than 48 minutes from now.
And clear, and we copy your report. Thank you. 320 BOR pressure, SA 789 and stable. Copy. BO pressure 225, SA 789 and stable. Copy. We copy you loud and clear, Maxim. Thank you. Same here. Maxim, it's page 110. Now per the procedure. And the rescue aid should be ready. And then until the separation itself. So say again. Page 110.
What?
Yes. Continue reporting, please. Okay, copy Moscow.
Russian flight controllers at the Russian Mission Control Center in Korolyov urging Max Sarayev, reminding him to continue reporting on all of the spacecraft status. The next major milestone will be the separation, the pyrotechnic separation of the three sections of the Soyuz vehicle. In advance of that, the uppermost section, known as the orbital module, has been depressurized. The crew is monitoring all of that activity on board. About 12 or so minutes from now, the Soyuz will be passing out of the guaranteed range of communications for space-to-space VHF voice capability through the antennas on the International Space Station, but we'll continue to monitor all of the conversation on this VHF loop. The Soyuz crew eventually will come into range of an Antonov 12 fixed-wing aircraft that is a flying command and control center for the Russian search and recovery forces. All of the helicopters have departed the Kustanai airport. They're en route, flying low below thick decks of clouds, en route to the landing site some 53 miles to the northeast of the town of Arkalyk.
BO pressure 36 millimeters. SR descent module is 789 and stable. Copy, Cephus, we copy you loud and clear. Same here, Moscow. Maxim, it's a reminder. Before the arming of the seats, please monitor that there are no foreign objects that might be in the way of our seats. Gosha, I understand. When possible, we will do it every minute, that there are no foreign objects that might interfere with the arming of the seats. Thank you so much, Maxim. I'm very grateful. You're welcome.
This is Mission Control Houston. You're looking at a live view of the large flight control room at the Russian Mission Control Center in Korolyov on the outskirts of Moscow. The Russian flight controllers in charge of the Soyuz landing operations, monitoring all of the Soyuz systems as Sarayev, Wiseman, and Gerst begin to slip out of Earth orbit and move into the upper reaches of the Earth's atmosphere. They will reach the point called entry interface, which is atmospheric entry at an altitude of about 400,000 feet at 9:35 p.m. Central Time. Just a few minutes later, about 7 minutes after that, the G-loads on the crew will build up to their maximum, about 3 to 4 Gs, at an altitude of about 34 kilometers at 9:42 p.m. That's just before the command is issued to deploy the parachutes, first a drogue chute and then the main parachute, under which the Soyuz will spend about 14 minutes descending to the landing site, which is about 53 statute miles to the northeast of the town of Arkelik in the northern zone for this landing that is underway following the deorbit burn that occurred on time at 9:05 p.m. Central Time. It is right now 9:17 a.m. Monday morning at the landing site in Kazakhstan. The first light of day at the landing site. We're hoping to get video from the landing site before long, or certainly after touchdown, in order to be able to share with you all of the activities on the recovery of this Expedition 41 crew that began its journey to the International Space Station back on May 29th in temperatures more than 50 degrees warmer than the crew will experience upon their return this evening, with landing schedule 41 minutes from now.
Maxim, we are ready to meet you on the landing site. Thank you. Gosha, I did not understand what you said, though, but never mind. The search and rescue team is ready to meet you on the landing site.
Да, у них небольшие помехи, но, в принципе, мы их слышим хорошо, устойчиво.
That search and rescue team currently en route in the fleet of Russian Mi-8 helicopters. Two of those helicopters have peeled off and are heading for the ballistic landing site to the southwest of the nominal landing site in the unlikely event a problem would occur that would result in the Soyuz landing short of its intended target. But so far, all of the Soyuz systems are functioning perfectly.
Это ты, который ТК-1 минус 62, вот это тут ты имеешь в виду, да, Сергей?
Да.
Cephus, Moscow.
Так, иногда говори, будет для статистики интересно.
Слушай, давай я Лене дам он этот, чтобы я следил за этим, за экипажем.
Давай, хорошо.
Она в курсе.
Вот, да, по пункту 8.3 вот желательно давать периодично.
Soyuz ISS, Maxim, do you copy?
Да, вот мы тут статистику каждый спуск собираем. И поэтому, если не трудно, говори еще и АРУ, ладно ли?
А тут
Moscow station.
Ну, ты знаешь, вот как...
We do not hear anything on the space to ground till we copy ISS.
Говори, как, ну вот, как мы отмечали.
Да, я поняла суть, все.
Давай.
Cephus, Moscow.
Нет, Гош, у нас тоже вообще тишина полная.
Gosha,
Вначале какие-то помехи, мы еще...
you know, it's very quiet. Before it was some interference. It's Alex talking from the station. Now, Cephus, Moscow. We do not copy you very well, but still...
The priority area is jumping up to around 10, and the ARU is around minus 64. That's value. Okay, copy. Thank you.
As you can see from the clock, some 37.5 minutes until the anticipated landing of the Soyuz to the northeast of Arkelik. Everything going very well. The crew, in its last reports, indicated that the pressure inside the descent module is holding steady. Everything in good shape. standing by for the next milestone that will come about 11 minutes, 12 minutes from now. That will be the separation of the three sections of the Soyuz vehicle pyrotechnically on computer command.
Soyuz ISS, we also copy you. I wish you good luck. Thank you. Thank you, Sasha. Maxim, Reed, Alexander, Yelena is sending her regards. She is, a little bit worried about you. She's concerned.
Alexander Samokhutyaev on board the International Space Station, talking to the crew on the Soyuz, talking to Max Sarayev,
Yes, it looks like that.
indicating that the crew is wishing the returning crew in the Soyuz vehicle, the station crew is, wishing all the best for a soft landing. Time to touchdown, 36 minutes. But everything on board the Soyuz is in good shape so far as the crew targets its landing zone to the northeast of Arkalyk with search and recovery helicopters from the Russian search and recovery forces, Rosaviatsia, currently en route, flying below thick decks of clouds toward the landing zone. This is the point that we anticipated either choppy communications, sporadic communications, or a complete loss of communication as the Soyuz descends toward the atmosphere, with atmospheric entry expected in about 12 minutes, passing soon out of range through relay communications through the International Space Station itself. Soon, as the Soyuz approaches the landing zone, it will pick up communications through the Antonov fixed-wing aircraft that are currently flying over the nominal landing zone.
По телеметрии для Сергея сбой почетности увеличился где-то порядка 19-28 поднимается. ТК-1 АРУ минус 65.
The reports being received from the helicopters currently en route to the landing zone is that they continue to fly at a very low altitude due to thick clouds and considerable fog, but they are flying below all of that. So the Soyuz, under its main chute, will be descending in all likelihood out of range of television cameras that are positioned at the landing zone itself.
Soyuz Moscow, how copy? Well, Gosha, it's Alex speaking from the station. It looks like it is still LOS. Okay, so we'll continue calling them. Soyuz ISS, how copy?
The International Space Station and, of course, the Soyuz vehicle flying at a lower altitude now as it prepares to enter the Earth's atmosphere, traveling over Western Africa, moving from southwest to northeast.
Soyuz Moscow. Soyuz Moscow. If you can hear us, please. Gosha, the separation is at 6:32, right? It's Alex from ISS. Yes, 32:47. Okay, 47. 5 minutes. Soyuz Moscow. If you can hear, please reply.
And again, this was expected, loss of communications because of the distance between the International Space Station flying at an altitude of 262 statute miles.
How copy? Gosha, it's very quiet. There was some noise, and that's it. Copy, Alex.
We are about 4 minutes away from the expected separation of the three sections of the Soyuz vehicle. That will occur at an altitude of 87 miles above the Earth. We are currently just under 30 minutes until touchdown.
Soyuz Moscow, if you can hear us.
The sequence of events from this point on will move rather rapidly.
Soyuz Moscow.
This is Mission Control Moscow. How do you read us? That is ISS. This is Mission Control Moscow.
София МКС. София МКС. Слышите?
ISS calling Soyuz, ISS calling Soyuz.
Station Moscow on Space to Ground 1 for Елена.
Подскажи сейчас на
Елена?
какие параметры?
Значит, смотри, Сереж, сбой почетности
What is the date? What are the numbers? So the purity error is about 40.
Soyuz Mission Control Moscow.
минус 66,
Гош, даже не трещит.
There's no noise whatsoever.
Тихо, тихо.
We heard some clicking initially, now it is really quiet. I understand, Sasha. If you start hearing them, let us know right away.
Да, разумеется.
Absolutely.
If everything is proceeding as planned, the modules should be separating from one another, the pyrotechnic separation between the three sections. And data received at the Russian Mission Control Center indicates that the three sections have in fact separated.
The information that separation occurred.
The visiting vehicle officer here in Mission Control confirms through data received that the module separation has occurred. So the descent module is now flying free
Thank God.
as it prepares to enter the Earth's atmosphere with temperatures around the spacecraft building to some 2,500 degrees.
Felt it. Must have.
Ну, это очень заметно.
That is obvious, yes. Believe me.
София, ответьте ЦУПу Москвы.
Soyuz Mission Control Moscow.
София, ЦУПу Москвы.
Yes, do you hear us? Yes.
София, мы вас слышим.
First, we hear you now.
And although the communications is sporadic, the Soyuz crew in good shape, acknowledging the calls of flight controllers at the Russian Mission Control Center.
Soyuz Mission Control, Soyuz calling Moscow. Do you hear us? No, just
24 minutes until touchdown. The Russian search and recovery forces and the Mi-8 helicopters en route to the landing site.
Moscow, if you hear us, please report on separation.
The flight control team in Korolyov asking the crew on board the Soyuz if they can hear the calls up to them to confirm the module separation. However, data received on the ground through the Antonov 12 fixed-wing aircraft indicates that we did have a nominal module separation standing by for the Soyuz to now enter the Earth's atmosphere at an altitude of 400,000 feet.
If you hear us, please report on separation.
София, ответьте ЦУПу Москвы.
Soyuz Mission Control Moscow.
Гоша, мы тоже не слышим.
Gosha, we cannot hear them either.
Принято.
That is station.
Будем ждать выхода на связь.
Copy. We'll wait for them to come on.
Once the Soyuz passes into the lower altitude of the atmosphere, past this period of peak heating, the Soyuz heat shield will be jettisoned to expose the altimeters and the soft landing engines at the base of the Soyuz that will begin to provide navigational data to the onboard computers to measure the altitude of the Soyuz in relation to its landing site and range to touchdown.
Сейчас вход в атмосферу.
Insertion to atmosphere.
These communications are expected to improve shortly once the Soyuz passes within range of the Antonov fixed-wing aircraft that is in place over the landing zone, some 53 statute miles to the northeast of the town of Arkalyk.
This is here, Mission Control Moscow. This is station calling. Cephas, do you hear us?
This is Mission Control Houston, receiving our first views from the landing site to the northeast of Arkalyk. The visibility is not terrible. There are low clouds, several decks of low clouds that likely will preclude our ability to see the Soyuz descending under the parachute. The temperature is quite cold, in the low 20s Fahrenheit, but otherwise the landing conditions are said to be favorable by those in charge of the search and recovery operations on scene. Under 20 minutes now until touchdown.
Все, ответит СУПу Москвы.
About 3 minutes from now, the crew in the descent module, Max Sarayev, the Soyuz commander, in the center seat, flanked on his left by Reed Wiseman, Alexander Gerst on his right, should be feeling the first effects of the most significant G-forces on the way down. 3 to 4 Gs to be pulled by the crew, their first sensation of Earth's gravity in 165 days. We're now just 18 minutes until the anticipated touchdown of the Soyuz TMA-13M spacecraft that launched back on May 29th with Max Sarayev, Reed Wiseman, and Alexander Gerst on board, the crew completing a mission that has spanned more than 70 million statute miles. The Soyuz descent module now approaching an altitude of about 21 miles. The crew now experiencing maximum G loads of about 3 to 4 Gs. This should last only a few minutes as we are standing by now for the command that will open the parachutes. That's expected about 2 minutes from now.
СУПу Москвы, если нас слышите, ответьте. Принимаем вас, Цефей. Слышим.
Да, перегрузка 5, начала падать. Максимальная была 5 единиц.
Принято 5 единиц. Вид спуска доложите.
Okay, so the G loads were 5 and 7 seconds. So far, everything is nominal Moscow. Copy, Cephis. 013, 15,
Принято.
roll. 3.5 is G load. It is dropping. Okay, copy, Cephis.
Перегрузочка 3 единички.
3 now is G load.
Подходим к концу управления.
We are approaching the completion of the control. Okay, copy.
Так, перегрузка.
G load.
Цефей, мы вас не слышим.
And the G-load is, please continue reporting. We copy you now.
Good news, communications established with the Russian Mission Control Center and the crew on board the Soyuz descent module. Everything in great shape. The crew reporting it feels well, and you can hear from time to time the beeping of the Soyuz radio beacon that is sending out navigational information to the Antonov fixed-wing aircraft, the command and control aircraft that is flying over the landing zone to the northeast of the town of Arkalyk. Next up will be the command to begin the deployment of the parachutes. First, 2 pilot parachutes are deployed, the second of which extracts the drogue chute. The drogue chute is then released, measuring about 24 square meters, slowing the Soyuz down from a descent rate of 230 meters per second to just 80 meters per second. That will be followed in short order by the release of the main parachute that covers an area of about 1,000 meters. The release of the main chute slows the Soyuz to a descent rate of about 7 meters per second, first yanking the Soyuz to an angle of about 30 degrees to expel heat, then shifting the Soyuz to a straight vertical descent.
Shroud jettison. Static interference. Everything is normal. Feeling well.
The crew reporting it is doing well, and that presumably means that the chutes have been deployed. The Soyuz now descending under its main parachute. Coming up on about 10 minutes until touchdown.
With the crew at 6:45.
Выходит на Spacegram 1.
But there's no visual contact yet.
The search and recovery forces now confirming not only audio but visual contact with the Soyuz descent module, as the crew now is just 10 minutes away from landing.
So it all seems to be nominal. They had a large load. That's why they were not able to talk to us. So as soon as I hear anything else, I'll let you know right away, okay? Okay, yes, we'll be waiting, okay? Okay, agreed.
Temperatures at the landing site hovering around the 23-degree mark Fahrenheit. Very chilly weather under a leaden gray Monday morning sky to greet Wiseman, Sarayev, and Gerst as they come home after 165 days in space.
According to the crew report, the altitude is 4.5. Everything's nominal on board.
Space to ground 1, Alexander.
And reports being received at the Russian Mission Control Center indicate that the crew is reporting it's feeling well. Those communications being relayed directly to the Antonov 12 fixed-wing aircraft at the landing site.
Calm with search and rescue, and everything is going nominally. Okay, good things go, and just let us know what we are doing with the config here, and yeah, you can just go ahead and switch the COM. There is no, we don't need combined loops anymore, so please just go back to the nominal COM configuration. And that's, okay, good. We'll start that. And
we're about 6.5 minutes away from touchdown. Everything continuing to proceed by the book as the Soyuz descends under its main parachute toward landing in a barren section of north-central Kazakhstan, where the temperature is now calculated at 23 degrees Fahrenheit to greet the returning Expedition 41 crew. With the heat shield having been discarded, the altimeter at the base of the Soyuz descent module is calculating the current altitude toward the landing site and the rate of descent, and we'll feed that information into the onboard computers to trigger the firing of the soft landing engines just a few seconds before touchdown. About 4.5 minutes until touchdown. No further reports, but everything is going well according to the data being received at the Russian Mission Control Center. You're looking at a live view from a balcony camera as the Russian flight controllers have established communications with the crew through the flying Antonov fixed-wing aircraft at the landing zone.
Mission Control ISS, space to ground 1.
Now just 3 minutes away from the anticipated touchdown of the Soyuz.
Just past 2,000 meters, and we see the chute.
The search and recovery forces say that they are seeing the chute, everything going well. Just 2,000 meters above the ground. About 2 minutes until touchdown. The Soyuz should be nearing its touchdown point. We'll be standing by for confirmation through the various loops and the search and recovery forces that we are monitoring. This is Mission Control Houston. The front screen of the Russian Mission Control Center with the Russian words Есть Посадка flashing as it always does, indicating they've landed. We are still waiting for further confirmation, but it appears as if the crew landed just shy of 9:59 p.m. Central Time, which would be 9:59 a.m. in Kazakhstan on Monday morning, again awaiting confirmation from the Russian search and recovery forces. And now the search and recovery forces have indeed confirmed the landing of the Soyuz TMA-13, and we'll refine that landing time as 9:58 and 35 seconds p.m. Central Time, 9:58 and 35 seconds p.m. Central Time for the landing of Soyuz TMA-13M, 9:58 a.m. Kazakhstan time on Monday morning. Max Sarayev, Reed Wiseman, and Alexander Gerst are home, back on Earth after 165 days in space.
The vehicle landed, lying on the site, and
we now have word from the Russian search and recovery forces that the vehicle landed on its side.
Search and rescue team.
So that is a data point for the first wave of helicopters that will be landing to help extract the crew. Again, landing occurring
Complete our activities.
Virtually on the dot at 9:58 and 35 seconds p.m. Central Time, tipping over onto its side. Not uncommon for that to happen. So we'll be standing by for further reports and any video that we may be getting shortly from the landing site itself. But the key is that the Expedition 41 crew is home, back on Earth, after its 5.5-month mission on the International Space Station. The recovery team that will be arriving soon in the phalanx of helicopters that are en route to the landing site include NASA personnel, European Space Agency personnel, and of course the Russian search and recovery forces themselves, Rosaviatsia, that is the civil aviation branch of the federal government responsible for the recovery operations of returning Soyuz crews. We'll be awaiting any video we get from the landing site as the search and recovery forces begin to extract the crew throughout the course of its 5.5-month mission. This has been an extremely ebullient and effervescent crew on orbit, providing a new bar that has been raised in their social media capabilities to extend their mission back to people on Earth. The return of the crew will be executed with them being extracted from the spacecraft, which the search and recovery forces reported tipped over onto its side after touchdown. They will be eventually brought back to the staging city of Kustanai, which is in northern Kazakhstan, just across the border from Russia, in 3 separate Russian Mi-8 helicopters. It's about a 2-hour helicopter ride from the landing site to Kustanai. They will arrive, receive other medical tests once back in Kustanai. There'll be a welcoming ceremony in traditional Kazakh style in which they'll be greeted by local Kustanai officials. Before they split up with Wiseman and Gerst boarding a NASA jet that will fly from Kustanai to Scotland. And Scotland, for a refueling stop, Gerst will disembark and be met by other European Space Agency personnel who will accompany him to the European Astronaut Center. Wiseman will continue on to Houston, while Max Sarayev bids farewell to his crewmates in Kustanai. He'll be boarding a Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center aircraft for a flight back to Chkalovsky Airfield just outside of his training base at the Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center in Star City. This is Mission Control Houston. The Soyuz TMA-13M with its crew of 3, Max Sarayev, Reed Wiseman, and Alexander Gerst, landed just a few minutes ago at 9:58 and 35 seconds p.m. Central Time, 9:58 a.m. in Kazakhstan, following a flawless descent through the Earth's atmosphere. Everything proceeded right on the money throughout the course of the afternoon and evening, with the hatch closure at about 3:20 p.m. Central Time earlier today, followed by the deorbit burn, which came after undocking by the spacecraft from the Rosviet module. The events that transpired throughout the course of the 56-minute descent from the deorbit burn tripped off in excellent fashion, with the spacecraft touching down and then being pulled over onto its side by its parachute. Not uncommon, very typical. The weather conditions a bit challenging for the search and recovery forces as they flew from the staging city of Kustanai, still en route to the landing site itself. Some of the helicopters are now already on the ground as they begin the process of working to extract the crew. We're hoping to receive video from the landing site very soon. The temperature is quite frosty, 23 degrees Fahrenheit at landing time, as the Soyuz descended under thick clouds and fog to reach the landing site itself. The Russian search and recovery forces are beginning to attend to the Soyuz spacecraft that is on its side following its bullseye touchdown at the landing site some 53 miles to the northeast of Arkalyk. Landing occurring at 9:58 p.m. Central Time, just before 10 a.m. Kazakhstan time on Monday morning. Rather cold conditions, 23 degrees Fahrenheit, and thick clouds and fog that posed a challenge for the helicopters that were deployed out of the city of Kustanai in northern Kazakhstan. And again, we're standing by for a video from the landing site itself. This is Mission Control Houston. The initial helicopters on the ground, part of the Russian search and recovery forces, as we stand by for the transmission of video from the landing site. Everything proceeding in smooth order with the crew. And there's our first view of Soyuz commander Max Sarayev, who served as the Expedition 41 commander as well, having wrapped up his second flight into space and an aggregate total of 334 days in space on his 2 missions. As always, quite upbeat, flashing the V for victory sign, being attended by the first Russian medical personnel who were on the first helicopter down at the landing site. You can see patches of snow. Again, Max Sarayev, the Soyuz commander, first out of the vehicle, which touched down right on time at 9:58 and 35 seconds p.m. Central Time, just before 10 a.m. In Kazakhstan on Monday morning. You can see a brisk wind, patches of snow on the ground, temperatures hovering around the 23-degree Fahrenheit mark. The helicopters landing in sequential fashion. The other crew members to be extracted shortly, Reed Wiseman and Alexander Gerst, having wrapped up their first flights into space respectively, 165 days in all since they were launched with Sarayev from the Baikonur Cosmodrome on May 29th.
Отлично, я тебе привез. А где? Сейчас будет. Где вода? Палатки. Где вода? Так, Колочек подними.
A multinational crew returning home today, wrapping up their 5.5-month mission. Sarayev conducted one spacewalk during his time on orbit, a 3-hour, 38-minute excursion with Alexander Samokhutyaev that occurred late in the increment. That followed 2 U.S. spacewalks out of the Quest airlock in U.S. extravehicular mobility units. Reed Wiseman conducting 2 spacewalks, the first with Alexander Gerst, the second with Barry Wilmore, who now is on board the station, along with Elena Surova and Alexander Samokhutyaev, as a 3-person crew for the next 2 weeks until they are joined by the next trio of residents who will be launched 2 weeks from today, U.S. time, in the wee hours of Monday, November 24th. That consisting of NASA flight engineer Terry Virts, who will become the commander of Expedition 43 next March. He'll be launched along with Soyuz commander Anton Shkaplerov and another European Space Agency flight engineer, Samantha Cristoforetti. While Max Sarayev is attended to, sitting passively in his chair next to his Soyuz capsule, the other crew members in the process of being extracted. This recovery operation executed in flawless fashion by the Rosaviatsa search and recovery forces, who have a knack of overcoming adverse conditions. In this case,
so have it taken
not the snow, but it was a case of low clouds and fog that initially delayed the deployment of the helicopters from Kustanai, the staging city. Finally arriving on scene, they are still en route, landing in sequential fashion as part of the recovery operations underway.
Просто у меня здесь генератор, просто очень забивать все будет. А это машину можно.
This is all part of the routine initial medical tests that are performed by the Russian nurses and flight surgeons following the landing of a Soyuz vehicle. There are teams of NASA and European Space Agency personnel that are part of this recovery team, and they'll be attending to Reid Wiseman and Alexander Gerst here shortly after they're extracted from the Soyuz.
Все сторона. Только не выключай, сторона. Ну пока плачу нормально.
And Alexander Gerst of the European Space Agency. A German volcanologist who spent 5.5 months on board the International Space Station, looking none the worse for wear.
I have one right here. What about yours?
This is a very, very important time for the European Space Agency. Gerst returning to Earth this evening. This is followed on Tuesday by the anticipated landing of the Philae lander from the Rosetta spacecraft on the comet that the mothership has been orbiting now for some time. And in 2 weeks, the launch of Samantha Cristoforetti, the Italian Air Force pilot who will be launched to the International Space Station for a 5.5-month mission of her own.
Олег Николаевич, я плохо вас слышал, но да, докладываю вам. Да, все хорошо, все.
Oleg Nikolaevich, I cannot hear very well, but I'm reporting everything is good. Understood. I tried calling you today all day and yesterday, but failed to reach you. I mean, yesterday actually. I cannot hear you. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you. Bye.
Мы ее провезли, видимо, на 15-м борту. Что-то не развел.
A Soyuz landing day for the returning crew members is as much an endurance test as it is a test of technical prowess, an extremely long day. This began early Sunday morning when the crew woke up. They had a final meal together with the remaining crew members on board, Barry Wilmore, Alexander Samakutyaev, and Elena Surova.
Doesn't hurt anywhere.
Before they moved into final farewells and hatch closure, shortly after 3 p.m. Central Time, the preparations for undocking that occurred at 6:31 p.m. Central Time, and then the deorbit burn and the high-speed entry back into the Earth's atmosphere. And there is Reed Wiseman, the NASA flight engineer, home after 5.5 months in space.
That's what you call adrenaline, so coursing through the veins.
Naval Commander and test pilot Reed Wiseman, who became a worldwide sensation through social media during his time up on orbit, back seated next to his crewmates Max Sarayev and Alexander Gerst. On the right is his flight surgeon, Dr. Steve Hart.
So you've got water? Yes. Are you thirsty? A little bit. If that's all right. I can drink later. So what's the pressure for MCC?
Hey, dude.
And even we're just about to land directly, but because of the parachute, we ended on one side. But other than that, everything is nominal. Would you like to say something to your family? Yes, here I am. Here we are on Earth. We'll soon be back home. But in fact, if I can elaborate a little bit, I can say that we've been left without some details on board the station, but we are hearing what's going on now, and here is a perfect example. Here have Germany and the US. We have worked together for half a year, completed our fine program. We've received a few cargo vehicles and space vehicles. Everything was fine, everything was in the spirit of cooperation. So I think that everybody needs to learn and follow the example of ISS crew members. Don't get insulted, don't try to prove anything to each other. Let's try and live together side by side. This is the most important thing, and then we'll have good results. Yeah, showing a good example. Thank you.
Max Sarayev providing his own commentary and assessment of his own expedition and a lesson in international cooperation, touting the cooperation that he and his crewmates, who had a special affection for one another and an affinity for spaceflight, a Russian Air Force colonel, Reed Wiseman there, a Navy commander test pilot, and a German scientist, a volcanologist, Alexander Gerst, now home back on Earth after 165 days in space.
Please hold it like this.
Yeah, we do, absolutely. Can you wait? What was the question? Yeah. The interview, can we do that? Yeah, definitely. Добрый, это очень добрый. Спасибо. Что хотите сказать для Центра управления полета вашим родным и близким, которые видят вас в прямом эфире? Мы с Алексом только что приземлились.
We've just landed.
Самый хороший, нет, по-русски, самый хороший командир.
The best commander, Maxim Viktorovich. Excellent commander. And I'm certainly very happy to be back on Earth. This is very good. And it's nice, it'd be nice if it snowed. Because the air is cold right now. Thank you very much.
Wiseman hailing the exploits of his Soyuz commander, Max Sarayev, and perhaps a few words forthcoming from Alexander Gerst now.
Yes, I can. I need to ask the doctor. He has not landed just yet. That's fine, let's go ahead. So number 3, please. So are you ready? Alexander, good morning. Good morning. Congratulations, successful landing. Thank you. Would you mind saying a few words about how the landing went? Went well? Nominal for us? For me? My first time in space. First time I got back from space. And it was good. I felt myself fine. Good. Great team with our leader, Max. Thank you for your support, of course. To everybody. Thank you and all the best. Thanks. Could you wave your hand for the mission control?
I'm not bad. Everything is amazingly heavy and my head's a little busy, but overall not bad.
So comments from all 3 crew members, prompted by a member of the Search and Recovery Forces, Alexei Lukyanov, who asked all 3 crew members for their reaction to their on-time landing that went by the book as the Soyuz TMA-13M spacecraft touched down about 53 miles to the northeast of the town of Arkelik. The crew will be
Time to move.
returning to the staging city of Kustanay, Kazakhstan, before long for further medical exams, and there they will split up, with Wiseman and Gerst boarding a NASA jet flying back to Scotland, where Gerst will be dropped off to be greeted by other European Space Agency personnel. That will be followed by Wiseman pressing ahead to fly back to Houston. Sarayev will be flying back to Star City, Russia, and his training base.
Hello, we're from Chelyabinsk, your hometown. We've just come here for the purpose of seeing you, talking to you. Can you say something to your fellow countrymen? Well, what can I say? I'm really happy. I'm glad that the dreams have been fulfilled. And that's the most important thing, that even most reckless adventures do.
A broad smile on the face of Reed Wiseman, who returned home today along with Max Sarayev and Alexander Gerst 5.5 months after leaving the planet. Wiseman conducted 2 spacewalks during his time on orbit. Record amount of research conducted by this crew along with their other crewmates on board the International Space Station.
All right, I gotta go. Love you guys, and I'll talk to you soon.
Other helicopters are in the process of landing. One of them containing NASA Public Affairs Officer Dan Hewitt, who has been part of the NASA recovery team. We may be hearing from him shortly. Sarayev now being hoisted in his reclining chair to be brought into the nearby inflatable medical tent, where it has been determined that there will be time for other post-landing medical exams. The crew will have an opportunity now to get out of their Russian Sokol launch and entry suits into more comfortable clothing before they are brought back into respective helicopters to be flown back to Kustanay, Kazakhstan, the staging city for today's landing operations.
Хорошо, хорошо. Передам. Да вижу. Пока пускай будет фон. Фон тут, ну, вверх.
And as you can see, Reed Wiseman being brought into the inflatable medical tent. And there's Alexander Gerst.
Говорю, значит, надо провести инструктаж. Она вверх бьет все равно. Она выше идет еще репортаж. Она нет, она здесь ничего не идет. Картинка идет.
Are you still filming? Yes, the image is still going on.
Вот водитель кто? И с антенной вместе. Я вас посажу напротив антенны. Не надо. Ну вот стоять всегда неправильно.
In 23-degree weather, with patches of snow on the ground, you can see that the Soyuz was moved into an upright position, enabling RSC Energia personnel to begin removing some of the critical cargo that was brought back to Earth in the descent module. The crew is now back inside the medical tent. They'll be assisted out of their Sokol launch and entry suits. This will take the better part of about 45 minutes to an hour before they are loaded back onto Russian Mi-8 helicopters, 3 of them, to be flown about 2 hours back to the staging city of Kustanay, Kazakhstan.
Подходите со второй камерой, рядом со второй камерой, со вторым Калининым.
Каждый раз, я предупреждаю, каждый раз об этом говорю. Ну, я и готовлю.
This is Mission Control Houston. You're looking at the inflatable medical tent, which is just several yards away from the Soyuz descent module. Inside the medical tent, the 3 crew members who have returned home from space aboard the Soyuz TMA-13M spacecraft. And at the landing site is NASA Public Affairs Officer Dan Hewitt. Dan, greetings to you on what appears to be a frosty Monday morning in Kazakhstan. How are things at the landing site?
Well, hey, Rob, as you can see, it's already beginning to not so much here where I'm standing, but there's been quite a bit of snow in the country. We hit a bit of weather, as you probably heard about, on our way out here. The helos got a little delayed, and I myself actually just stepped down as they were carrying the crew in, but if anything, it's just another testament to the robustness of the Soyuz and the capabilities of all these search and recovery forces to get us out here safely today.
Give us a little word picture, if you can, Dan, about the flight down from Kustanay. We understand that you all were flying pretty low in altitude because of the fog and thick clouds.
Yeah, we had to stay low. There were some ceilings that they were worried about, and of course the freezing fog, as we've been talking about so much while we've been out here. It's one of the biggest concerns for these helicopters when they make the trip. There's a tendency for ice to build up. Temperatures drop too low, and there's too much precipitation. So we were flying pretty low on the way in, but honestly, clouds are pretty high right now. There's no fog. We were expecting some snow here at the landing zone, but no snow right now. Sounds like a lot of the harsher weather is staying quite a ways west of us, so we got pretty lucky today. It's going to get a little dicier as the days go on, but certainly an acceptable day for landing the vehicle down safely. The crew already inside the medical tent.
Dan, so if you can give us a glimpse now of the chronology of what the crew will be doing over the next few hours, the return trip, and how they will be dispositioned from this point on.
Yeah, sure thing. So right now they're in the medical tent. They're doing their initial checkouts. Reed Wiseman is going to be participating in, he's going to be the latest participant in a series of field test exercises that we've been doing with some of the crew members as soon as they get down on the ground. Those exercises looking at very basic things, having the astronauts stand up, basic functions, things like that may not sound like much, but when you're readapting to gravity after 6 months, the first couple of hours can be very vital, not only for these returning astronauts. That's going to be a very important data point for us as we send astronauts, men and women, to Mars. We need to know how well they'll be able to function as soon as they hit gravity again once they get back down on the ground. So once we're done here in the medical tent, as you can see, we're moving pretty quickly, trying to get everybody out of the cold. We're going to load them into the choppers and head back on up to Kustanay. where we'll do the welcoming ceremony, depending on how the guys are feeling. And then they'll be heading back to home bases. Max Sarayev getting in the GCTC plane, heading back to Star City in Russia. And then Reed Wiseman and Alexander Gerst are going to get on the NASA plane and make their way back over to Houston. Alexander Gerst will actually be going straight back to his home base in Europe, though.
And Dan, looking at the cold weather that you're enduring at this moment makes my bones chill, since we'll be launching another trio of crew members in 2 weeks, and it only gets colder from here.
It does, and honestly, I think you went through a little bit colder when you were here back in March. The wind isn't too bad right now. If anything, it's just serving to wake everybody up a little bit more as we're standing here, but definitely a little cold. It's not Houston, but definitely bearable.
Sounds good, Dan. Well, we appreciate it very much. We're going to be getting some replays here, it appears, of the Soyuz in the final seconds of its descent for landing that we're looking at the moment. And here's our replay of landing. Let's keep you on the line here for just a second. And there were the soft landing engines firing just a second before touchdown. That occurred at 9:58 p.m. Central Time, not quite an hour ago. The crew was extracted within about 35 minutes, all looking hale and hearty. Dan, we thank you for your time. Have a safe trip back to Kustanai and then back to the United States. And thanks for participating and joining us, even though it was a bit late today.
Absolutely. Thanks for trying to get warm.
Please stay warm and fly safe back to Kustanai, Dan. Dan Hewitt, NASA Public Affairs Officer, joining us from the landing site northeast of Arkalyk, as he is standing right next to the Soyuz TMA-13M descent module, which brought Max Sarayev, Reed Wiseman, and Alexander Gerst home after 165 days in space. Now you're watching a replay of one of the all-terrain vehicles making its way from a nearby parked position at the landing zone to the spacecraft itself, just a few seconds after the Soyuz touchdown at 9:58 p.m. Central Time. The Soyuz landed and then tipped over onto its side, which is not uncommon, especially in heavy wind, dragged onto its side by the girth of its parachute. But the crew was extracted in rapid fashion, all placed in chairs nearby the spacecraft to allow themselves a few minutes to regain their equilibrium, and then were carried inside the inflatable medical tent, where they're now being attended to for routine post-landing medical exams prior to being loaded back onto their respective helicopters for about a 2-hour flight to the staging city in Kustanai in northern Kazakhstan. And there's a sight we don't typically see, the wind carrying the parachute and tipping the Soyuz over onto its side, but you can see how quickly the initial team of search and recovery personnel were at the scene to attend to the crew, and it's their rapid extraction from the descent module. That is the only section of the 3-section Soyuz spacecraft that is brought home with the crew inside. Max Sarayev was seated in the center seat of the Soyuz. To his left was Reed Wiseman, to his right Alexander Gerst. And again, this is a live view now from the landing site. The Soyuz was placed back into an upright position. The stand with its ladder built around the Soyuz to enable technical personnel to begin extracting cargo from inside the Soyuz descent module. Up on the International Space Station, 3 crew members continue the uninterrupted continuous human presence that began with the arrival of the Expedition 1 crew back on November 2nd, 2000. Now more than 14 years of a continuous U.S. presence aboard the station, being maintained by the new Expedition 42 commander, Barry Wilmore of NASA, and his Russian crewmates, Alexander Samokhutyaev and Elena Surova of the Russian Federal Space Agency. Together, they will form a 3-person crew for the next 2 weeks until the next trio of residents will be launched from the Baikonur Cosmodrome, which is well to the southwest of this landing site. That trio consisting of NASA flight engineer Terry Virts, Soyuz commander Anton Shkaplerov, and European Space Agency flight engineer Samantha Cristoforetti. Last week, they wrapped up all of their training preparations at the Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center in Star City outside of Moscow, and will be flying down to the launch site at the Baikonur Cosmodrome on Tuesday, on Veterans Day, to begin their final 2 weeks of pre-launch training. Their launch is scheduled on Sunday, November 23rd, U.S. time, at 3:01 p.m. Central Time, which will be 3:01 a.m. at the Baikonur Cosmodrome on Monday, November 24th, launching on a 4-orbit, 6-hour rendezvous to reach the International Space Station.
Right.
In charge before you came? Yes, I did, but it lost like
Alright, we'll make it quick. All right.
Thank you. Have a look if you got something, because I didn't show well. So you actually got a picture too. Get some? Okay. Oh, sorry.
This is Mission Control Houston, half a world away on the barren steppe of Kazakhstan. You're looking at RSC Energia and Russian search and recovery personnel continuing to work around the descent module of the Soyuz TMA-13M spacecraft that brought home Reed Wiseman, Alexander Gerst, and Max Sarayev. They landed 1 hour ago, were quickly extracted from the spacecraft, placed on reclining chairs just by the capsule to enable themselves to regain their land legs after 165 days of weightlessness. They are now inside the nearby inflatable medical tent, attending for initial routine post-landing medical examinations that are always part of a Soyuz landing. Their Russian Sokol launch and entry suits by now have been removed. They'll be donning more comfortable clothing and warm clothing to ward off the 23-degree Fahrenheit weather outside before they are placed inside respective helicopters for about a 2-hour flight back to Kustanay, Kazakhstan, in northern Kazakhstan, just across the border from Russia, for a traditional Kazakh ceremony, and then to board both NASA and Russian aircraft to fly back to Europe first, where Alexander Gerst will be met by other European Space Agency personnel en route back to the European Astronaut Center. Reed Wiseman will press on to return to Houston, and Max Sarayev will be returning to Star City, Russia, to his training base. You can see part of the flotilla, the phalanx of Russian Mi-8 helicopters that are always part of a recovery operation in Kazakhstan. And once again, there is that inflatable medical tent in which the crew is currently undergoing those routine post-landing medical tests. Everything went by the book from the time the crew began its landing preparations on board the station on Sunday afternoon. The hatch closure, the undocking, the deorbit burn, their high-speed entry back into the Earth's atmosphere, culminating with an on-time touchdown at 9:58 p.m. Central Time, 9:58 a.m. Kazakhstan time on Monday morning.
Когда вынесут, да, Сереж, там маленький, около палатки караулит.
Еще один летит. Они, видишь, они тут подлетают, ёпрст. Вы что, успели подлететь? Мы что-то вообще тоже не успели.
Не, мы приземлились уже.
Ну да.
Сюда.
And with post-landing activities ongoing in good fashion, despite the cold temperatures at the landing site, we can wrap it up for tonight's coverage of the return of the Expedition 41 crew. Once again, Reed Wiseman, the NASA flight engineer, Soyuz commander Max Sarayev, and Alexander Gerst of the European Space Agency safely home back on Earth after a journey of 70 million miles spanning 165 days in space. Everything continued per the timeline throughout the course of the day and this evening's activities. It was a bullseye touchdown for the Soyuz spacecraft, landing about 53 miles to the northeast of Arkalyk, Kazakhstan. The crew now undergoing routine post-landing medical tests in their inflatable medical tent nearby their Soyuz descent module. Once again, the return of the crew to Kustanay, Kazakhstan, and then their respective return to their home bases will continue throughout the day on Monday, and that'll be our advertisement for our continuing coverage of space station activities on Monday morning at 10 a.m. Central Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Time on Space Station Live. We are now into Expedition 42 on board the International Space Station. The new commander, Barry Wilmore of NASA, and his two Russian crewmates, Alexander Samokhutyaev and Elena Surova, will act as a three-person crew for the next 2 weeks, conducting research and maintenance on board the orbital outpost as they await the arrival of 3 new residents who will be launched in 2 weeks from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. A multinational crew back on Earth and a bilateral crew on board the station, all part of the ongoing continuous human presence in space on board the International Space Station. So that'll wrap it up for this evening. Thank you for joining us throughout the course of the day and this evening's activities. Expedition 41, the 3 crew members safely back on Earth, having triumphantly completed 165 days in orbit. Have a good evening and have a good week from Mission Control in Houston.